If you're an actor working on As You Like It, then you are in the right place, because I am going to tell you everything you need to know to get started with this play. I'm going to talk through the plot really quickly, some of the famous lines you might have heard, some of the great monologues you might like to consider, where you can find great productions, and some of the themes of the play that you might like to think about in your unique interpretation, so you can really bring it to life in an exciting way. I'm making this video for my membership, Shakespeare Mastery Academy. So if you are needing support getting used to Shakespeare, then you might like to come and join us. It's such a great community, and I have a whole portal full of exclusive tutorials to help you get started with Shakespeare, and we do weekly classes. So yay, take a look at that. The link is in the description. Right, let's jump in. Okay, I'm going to give the plot to you as quickly as I can, just so you have a rough overview of what happens. As You Like It is a play where a lot happens, but also nothing happens. It's not really plot driven. It's much more about the characters, the relationship, the language, and also the general kind of vibe of the play, which is, it's beautiful. It's a pastoral comedy, which means it's really about the idealism of country life, people moving from the city to the country and discovering their true selves. So we open on the court of Duke Frederick. We find out that the Duke has actually banished his older brother, Duke Senior, for no particular reason. He's basically overthrown him. We also meet Orlando, whose older brother has been kind of keeping him locked up at home. So there are some brotherly things that are getting a bit weird in this play. There's some interesting dynamics going on there. Orlando decides that he's going to compete in a wrestling match because, I don't know, that'll show him. And his older brother, Oliver, is like, oh, well, that's good because I can secretly kill him. Rosalind and Celia, who are cousins, watch the wrestling and are very impressed by Orlando's manly violence. He doesn't die, and Rosalind talks to him for about 60 seconds and ping, they fall in love. That's the kind of play we're talking about here. Rosalind is actually the daughter of the banished Duke, and Celia is the daughter of the new Duke. Rosalind has been allowed to stay at court just because Celia and Rosalind are so close, and she kind of begged her dad, please let her stay. And now he goes, nope, not anymore. She has to go too. She's too much of a risk. And Celia says, well, I'm going to go with her. So they run away to the forest of Arden. Rosalind decides to dress as a boy, Ganymede, just for safety. They wander off to the forest, they find a farm and decide to live there. Wouldn't you know it, Orlando also decides to run away to the forest of Arden because his brother is being such a jerk, and he finds the old Duke living there with some of these like loyal cronies that have followed him there, and takes to the forest life, starts writing terrible poetry about Rosalind and pinning it on the trees. Rosalind finds this poetry and bumps into Orlando and says, you know what, I can cure you of this love, because of course she's still dressed as a boy. I can cure you of this love. If you come and see me every day, I'll pretend to be Rosalind, and you can woo me, you can romance me, and I'll cure you of love. So he agrees to this, even though he originally says, I wouldn't be cured. He for some reason agrees to this. He comes to see her every day, and she shows him what it's really like to be with a woman and what women are really like, which is neurotic and insecure, apparently. Some interesting things in this play. He's due to come back to see her the next day, but he's running late, and instead pops up his brother Oliver. His brother Oliver has had a change of heart and has decided to be a good guy because he got scared by a lion in the forest, basically. That's the short version. Celia and Oliver, ping, fall in love. There are also a bunch of shepherds and shepherdesses in this play that they create a kind of a love triangle. There's a bunch of relationships going on. And so at this stage, later in the play, Rosalind says, okay, if you all rock up tomorrow, I can solve all your problems because I'm a love wizard. Tomorrow arrives and they all rock up to the forest. Rosalind, ta-da, reveals her disguise and says, let's all get married. And they do. Hymen, the god of weddings, also rocks up to marry them. Classic Shakespeare, a god pops up in the middle of the forest. Like I said, a lot happens, but also nothing happens, and it is flippin' delightful. It's just delightful. If you need a more detailed breakdown of the play, I would suggest my friend Tim Nance's channel. He has a great breakdown of this play scene by scene, so I will link that in the description below. I'm going to quickly run you through some of the very famous lines in this play, and then we'll talk about the monologues and the pros and cons of choosing those monologues for auditions specifically. This play has a lot of very famous lines. You might have heard all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. This is from Jaques. He's kind of like an emo guy that lives in the forest that the Duke and the other, like his cronies, kind of make fun of him because he's so serious and emo about things, basically. And he talks about the 7 ages of man, ranging from the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms all the way to second childishness and mere oblivion. It's kind of dark. Like, it's amazing, but also dark, right? He's a glass half empty kind of guy. When they arrive in the forest of Arden, Celia says, "I like this place and could willingly waste my time in it." When Jaques and Orlando meet, they do not hit it off. Orlando being the kind of lovesick fool almost, and Jaques being full of melancholy. Jaques says to Orlando, "Let's meet as little as we can." And Orlando replies, "I do desire we may be better strangers." And one of my favorites, Rosalind, when she meets Phoebe, a kind of arrogant shepherdess, says to her, "Sell when you can, you are not for all markets." Harsh, Rosalind. Really harsh. This is one of the really interesting things about the play, is that Rosalind, when she is at court as herself, she is reserved, she's held back, she has to be careful about the things that she says. Then when she becomes Ganymede, she's dressed as a boy, she feels this freedom, she tells everybody what she really thinks, and she puts herself out there in this kind of extreme, sometimes awkward way. And that's one of the things that's so delightful about it, is very vulnerable. And if you're looking at playing Rosalind, for example, finding the delight in stepping into that freedom is part of what we come here to see. And for Orlando, it's that journey from being someone that has not really been around other people, and particularly women. He doesn't know how to write poetry, he doesn't know how to talk to people really very well. And suddenly he learns through Rosalind, despite not recognizing her, he learns what love really is and how to actually talk to people. So if you're looking at monologues from this play, let me run you through what to keep in mind when it comes to the really great monologues. The All the World's a Stage monologue from Jaques is incredible. There's no doubt about it, but it's so well known. I put it in the iconic bucket. That is the bucket where Hamlet's to be or not to be lives, right? And those iconic speeches, I generally say don't touch them unless you're really, really willing to put in the hard yards and think about what you're going to bring to the table, which you should do anyway. But those ones are the ones where an audition panel, for example, they're going to be singing along in their heads because they've seen it so many times. Rosalind has an amazing speech to Phoebe, kind of telling her to settle, basically settle for this shepherd that's been chasing her. And that starts with, "And why, I pray you, who might be your mother?" So when she's saying, like, why are you so special? It's very, very witty. So if you love that kind of smart humor and she's being direct, that is a great one. However, again, it is really quite well known, so you really need to make sure you're doing it well. And think about all the stuff that's going on for Rosalind underneath. It's the thrill, the freedom that I talked about before that really makes it sing. Phoebe, the shepherdess that Rosalind is talking to, has 2 amazing monologues. Again, reasonably well known. Her first is to Silvius, the shepherd that's chasing her, where he says to her, "You're killing me. You're killing me by denying my love," basically. And she's like, "I don't want to kill you." She says, "I would not be thy executioner." She has a whole monologue about like, well, go away if I'm killing you. Once she meets Rosalind and Rosalind gives her that big dressing down, Phoebe actually falls in love with Rosalind. And she has a monologue that starts with, "Think not I love him, though I ask for him," where she's basically in denial. She's wrestling with this new feeling of love for this strange young boy that has appeared in the forest. Out of those 2, Think Not I Love Him tends to be very, very popular. So I tend to recommend I Would Not Be Thy Executioner just because it's lesser done. And I actually think it better personally. So if you're looking at Phoebe, she's kind of more of a rough type, casting type. If you're looking at kind of rough, sassy stuff, I'd look at I Would Not Be Thy Executioner. My top pick for a slightly lesser performed monologue in this play is a fool, I met a fool in the forest. This is Jakey's again, but I don't see people doing this one as much as the All the World's a Stage monologue. He has just met Touchstone, the very witty fool in the forest, and he thinks that, oh my goodness, it would be the best thing to be a fool, because a fool basically just tells everyone what they think, and Touchstone in particular is kind of dark, so Jacob is on board with that, and he thinks, yay, I want to be a fool too. It's quite a long monologue, but it can be done in pieces. That is a great monologue to look at, and I would say it can kind of be done across different genders and casting types, so it's a good one to look at generally. Another one you might like to look at is Rosalind's He Was to Imagine Me His Love. This is when she's telling Orlando that she once cured somebody else that was lovesick by doing this whole like, I'll pretend to be your love thing and they can come and woo me. So she explains this whole thing. It's an interesting one because it's actually all lies. She never did that as far as we know. And so really what is going on there is that she's testing Orlando and she's being, again, very vulnerable. So one of the cool things about this monologue is that there's a lot going on subtextually that you can dig into. The downside of this monologue is that it's in prose, not verse. And if you have an audition brief that specifies it needs to be in verse or blank verse, you can't use this one, sadly. So when you're digging into the play, you always want to start by watching some productions. Yes, of course, read the play, but you are welcome to watch productions first, just FYI. So here are some that I recommend. My favorite production that I've ever seen of this play is unfortunately not online, but I want to tell you about it quickly because I want to highlight that this play, it can be kind of darker, but also it can be very, very silly. And that's something that you should keep in mind when you're thinking about your interpretations, is how kind of funny and camp and light do you want it to be, or are you going to bring out some of the darker elements of the play? The production that I watched was at Belvoir Theatre in Sydney, and the cast got dressed up as sheep wearing woolly jumpers and beanies, and at interval they got shorn by bouncing off a trampoline back onto the stage wearing now just tank tops, undies and fluffy socks. It was super cute, super silly, and that's an example of how we can kind of bring out the lightness of this play. However, online, I recommend this production from the National Theatre. This one is on the darker side, which you can see kind of just from the design, but how cool is the design, right? That is available on National Theatre at Home. You could also try this one from the Royal Shakespeare Company from a couple of years ago. I thought this production was fine. It didn't blow me away, but it is a good place to start. It will give you that kind of middle ground, little bit of darkness, a little bit of light. It's good interpretation. So it's there on Marquee TV or digitaltheatre.com. Another option is watching the BBC version. I think it's from the 70s, starring Helen Mirren as Rosalind. Obviously, these are a little older, so sometimes they're a little drier, and definitely don't copy the way that they say the language, because it's just, things have changed so much, but they do hold up in terms of the kind of insights into the characters and giving you an overview of the plot of the play. This is available on Amazon Prime Video in some countries, or you might be able to find it on BBC iPlayer. Game, you might even like to watch the Laurence Olivier version from 1936, which is on YouTube, and all that stuff still applies. Don't copy the way they say the verse because it's changed so much, but you will learn stuff about the plot and about the characters. If you found a production that you liked online, can you link it in the comments below for other people to enjoy as well? It's very, very helpful. Share the love. So finally, things to think about in your interpretation. As is the case with a lot of Shakespeare's comedies, you can decide how dark you want to go or how light you want to go. I really enjoyed listening to Cheek by Jowl's podcast episode talking about their production of As You Like It, when they talked about love and loss going hand in hand and how they dug into some of that heartbreak and darkness in their production from many years ago. So if you like podcasts, I'll link that episode in the notes below as well. Otherwise, just generally, I think about what's going on for the characters internally. In this play, a lot happens in the silences. A character like Celia, Rosalind's cousin, has a lot less lines, but she still has many opinions, and she has lots of little lines that it's got a lot going on underneath the surface. So with everything you do think about subtext. I know sometimes people think there's no subtext in Shakespeare, but there is, right? Characters say a lot of their thoughts, but they also have more thoughts, more going on underneath. So don't stop at that first layer, okay? Dig deeper. The more you dig into what you think is going on underneath the surface and you have an opinion about everything that's going on, the better your performance will be. So take that time to dig in and have an opinion, have a worldview, have a perspective, and that's what will make your interpretation rich. So all those resources that I've mentioned are linked in the description below, but as usual, ask me questions if you're not clear and I can always go into more detail. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll link some useful videos on screen about those monologues from As You Like It, and I'll see you in the next video.